on the record in the matter 24 CF 196, State of Wisconsin versus Brian Roseland Jr. The state appears through Special Prosecutor, District Attorney Aaron Marco in person. We do have Eugene Harrington, Defense Counsel in person, along with Mr. Roseland in custody in person. We're set today in this matter for the sentencing portion of this matter. Mr. Roseland pled guilty to count 2, manufacturing, delivering amphetamine greater than 10 grams but less than 50 grams, a Class D felony, as a party to a crime. The court ordered a pre-sentence investigation report. The court has reviewed this report. In this case, I did not receive an alternate PSI, correct?
No.
I did not believe so. I didn't receive any alternate PSI, simply the pre-sentence investigation report. I have reviewed that report. Mr. Marco, have you received and reviewed the report?
I have. It's document 41 in the court's file, 39-page document.
Any corrections or material corrections or any changes for the record?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Harrington, have you received this report?
Yes.
Did you thoroughly go over this report with Mr. Roseland?
Yes.
Any material changes or corrections for the record? All right, thank you. Argument and sentencing recommendation, Mr. Marco.
Thank you. As the document 36 in the court's file has the statement, the party's settlement proposal and statement of negotiated plea in exchange for his guilty plea to count 2. Count 1 was dismissed outright, and there was a joint recommendation from the parties of 6 years in the Wisconsin prison system, the components of which are 3 years of initial confinement followed by 3 years of extended supervision. My understanding, based on the calculations given to me by Attorney Harrington, and I double checked from August 18th, 2024 to today's date, is 444 days of sentence credit, including today. I do believe that the 3 years in and 3 years out is an appropriate sentence, even though the Department of Corrections has a slightly larger recommendation, which was 4 to 5 years of initial confinement followed by 4 to 5 years of extended supervision. Just want to make sure that I have that right.
You do.
Okay. As the court and the parties are aware, there's 3 primary factors that the court has to consider at this time, which are protection of the public, the severity of the offense, and any rehabilitative needs of the defendant. I think the most pronounced factor in this particular case is the rehabilitative needs of the defendant. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's controlling, but I think it's the most pronounced. In looking at the pre-sentence investigation, Mr. Roseland began using controlled substances at a very young age, was raised in an environment that normalized that kind of behavior. He had issues with alcohol through his juvenile life and in juvenile delinquency issues. I think he then said in his late teens, he transitioned to methamphetamine, which became his drug of choice, which is ultimately why he's here today. I believe it's been approximately half of his life he's been struggling with a methamphetamine addiction. Attorney Harrington provided me a document from the Healing Center in Turtle Lake where he was conducted a pre-assessment, and in a simple conversation with them, it said that it was clear that he needed assistance and qualified for their programming. It's a very unfortunate set of circumstances. It doesn't sound like there seems to be a bit of conflict between what the pre-sentence investigation author documents and what Mr. Roseland reports. Mr. Roseland, I don't know that it's an accurate representation that he tries to characterize the place of his upbringing as a wholesome environment or anything like that, whereas the pre-sentence investigation author says it has a reputation. In fact, I think at one point it says where bodies go to disappear. That's a pretty dramatic statement, I think, from the pre-sentence investigation author. I'm personally not that familiar with the area. Maybe there's truth to both of those things and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But he claims to have had a reasonable upbringing. He had love in his family. Family is his priority. Family is what was taught to him. There's discrepancies between his significant other and his mother's characterization of his childhood, whether he was abandoned to raise himself, and a lot of different things that went on there. Needless to say, he had a troubled youth. He got into juvenile delinquency issues. Those translated into the adult justice system, actually in conjunction with one another. From my reading of the PSI, it looks like his last juvenile case for the assault where he went and punched a guy because they weren't paying for a truck that they bought from his girlfriend, got converted to an adult case, and he ended up getting, I think it was a 43-month sentence out of that. So right out of the bat, he got hammered as an adult and what originally started as a juvenile case. I know it's a little bit different in the state of Minnesota than it is here, but when you continue to read the pre-sentence investigation and his adult correctional experience, am I going too fast? I'll slow down a little bit. When you look at that, although he had that 43-month sentence, if you look at the sentence after the sentence after the sentence, because he has a substantial criminal history, tons of fleeing, obstructing, a few drugs. I think the burglary was in his juvenile career, but they ran almost all of those sentences concurrent. And I'm not exactly sure, but looking at the 43-month sentence, when I looked at the dates, that he had a 6-month original imposition of the sentence, and he had two approximately 90-day parole revocations that he sat, and ultimately they discharged him years before he was due to be off of the probation part of it, because he originally got like a 10-year sentence. And then when you look at the fleeings and the violations he had while he was on that, they ran concurrent. So he's had a number of prison sentences, a number of jail sentences, but from my reading of the PSI, he's never actually sat very long. In fact, this 444 days might be closest to the longest that he sat, which is part of the reason why I think the 3 years is reasonable, because I don't think, given my reading of the PSI, that he's ever sat that long of a sentence before. Now, to his credit, looking at what he's done while he's been incarcerated, he's taken advantage of a number of classes. He's gotten his HSED. He is setting himself up for higher education. He's engaging treatment. He's even got his Minnesota probation agent that commented that he's engaging the system in ways that he's never engaged it before, which shows us that if he hasn't, he's at a critical stage of turning a new leaf and growing, hopefully, out of this trauma-based life that he has been born into, but also cultivated for himself. The severity of the offense, I do agree with the pre-sentence investigation author on this particular thing. This is a scourge on our community. It has a number of victims that are often unnamed. Methamphetamine is not a nameless drug that has nameless victims, and people only hurt themselves because they do it. It's just not the nature of it. It really isn't. In fact, I have little doubt that Mr. Roseland himself is one of those victims and how he got sucked into this. It sounds like where he grew up, methamphetamine was commonplace and it was all over, which is why I don't think it's necessary to categorize it with so much negativity as I read in the pre-sentence when he said it was just meth. For him, I think meth is as common as milk. I mean, that sounds kind of ridiculous, but in all honesty, in his environment where he came up, it probably just is meth for him, because it's something he's seen everywhere he went and everywhere he goes growing up for the last half of his life. And that's unfortunate, because that's not the rest of the world. And it's not the common society in general doesn't have that experience. And when those things start to get distributed for pure profit without consideration of the people that it's hurting for a person's own gain, that is a very serious offense. It's a very serious situation which directly implicates the need to protect the public. So, in general, I think when you look at all of these things, from my perspective, the most, like I said, the most pronounced factor is his rehabilitative needs. And we see this all the time when it comes to drug distribution and drug addiction cases, is if you take methamphetamine out of his life, he probably is the guy that his significant other raves about in her character letter and sees him growing and maturing and is dealing with his trauma and talking about his feelings, and the one that they call Uncle Dad. He's probably the guy that his aunt talks about how when he was at her house, everyone in the community brought their cars over so he could fix them, and he did it with joy and helped out his community. He's probably the guy that engages his ancestry and his heritage and his culture like he did when he was a youth. He's probably that guy. But when you have methamphetamine in his life, he's the guy that runs from the cops. He's the guy that puts people in danger when he's going 80, 110, or 150 miles an hour on a four-wheeler, a snowmobile, or a motorcycle, or a car. That's endangering other people's lives. And that's the risk that the court has to balance right now. And that's where he's showing these signs of positivity. And is he going to change?
All right, I have to stop you. If that goes off one more time, I am taking the phone. Please mute it. Sorry, Mr. Marco, you may continue.
And that's the part where I think the court has to balance it, because, you know, if he is turned that leaf and he's dramatically reduced and mitigated his danger to the public. That being said, with his criminal history and the severity of this offense, this is a plain and simple prison case all day long. But I think that when you look at the period of incarceration that's being presented to the court, the fact that he's never sat this long before, the fact that he's engaging the services that are being offered to him, I think a 3-year sentence is reasonable. And I think 3 years of supervision following that is going to give us a really good indication of whether or not he's changed his life and whether he's true about what he says or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Harrington?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Marco. A deal is a deal. We agreed to the plea agreement, and the joint recommendation is 6 years, 3 years confinement, 3 years of extended supervision. Echoing Mr. Marco's reference to the 3 factors: gravity of the offense, character and rehabilitative needs of the defendant, need to protect the public. There isn't any question that count 2, delivery of methamphetamine, is and always has been a very serious offense. Maximum penalty is a $100,000 fine and 25 years imprisonment, 15 years confinement, 10 years on ES. That's a D felony. That's in the upper half of all the crimes that the legislature has classified as to dangerousness. This is one of those higher ones. The facts are that Jessica Benjamin, also known as Jessica Garbo, Brian's cousin, he was arrested in Burnett County, and by one means or another agreed to make a deal for consideration on her charges of delivery. If she could make a couple controlled buys, that her case would be reduced to possession, and she did that. She is Brian's cousin, and the court will note that Brian, by all of the witnesses, likes to be helpful. Well, the old adage, no good deed goes unpunished, comes to the forefront. Ms. Garbo made the connection with Brian, and he made a connection for her to acquire significant quantities of methamphetamine twice. The one, count 1 was dismissed because there were some other issues, but be that as it may, he's here on a very serious offense. The facts reveal that Brian didn't have a profit motive. He didn't get any of the money. It was transferred from Garbo, Benjamin, to Brian, to this other person that's named in the complaint. So he was not in this for the profit motive. He was in this in the accommodate his relative motive. That does not change, and I'm not arguing that it changes anything about the criminality here. This is a crime, it's a serious offense. Concede that. Brian Roseland is 32 years of age. He's a father. He's a stepdad to 3 kids that Maria Nolan has. And there are 2, in preparing for this, I broke down positive factors and negative factors for Brian Roseland. I'm going to go through the negative ones first, because I think the positive ones are what we want the judge to concentrate on. He has 10 convictions for fleeing or eluding or lying to law enforcement officers from 2009 to 2023. He's been placed on probation for those. Every time he was on probation, he was revoked, I think, except once. That's the most recent one. He has 4 convictions or charges for possession of substances. Most of those are 5th degree possession in Minnesota. He has 2 property crimes, possession of stolen property and a burglary. The burglary arose in 2006 when he was a juvenile. The one assault charge started as a juvenile in juvenile court, and then he wasn't able to finish the juvenile supervision, so they transferred it to adult court, and he was ultimately revoked there and sentenced to prison. He's been ordered to probation 6 times and revoked every time. He has multiple sentences, as Mr. Marco mentioned. They're all by all revoked. The compass evaluation is the actuarial assessment that doesn't predict individual defendants, but predicts people with those same components have a greater likelihood or propensity or actuarial assessment that they may commit more crimes, and Brian is a high risk on a number of those factors. The agent outlined at page 37, quote, Mr. Roseland appears to be trying to paint a picture of himself and his surroundings to not get a prison sentence. And the agent then mentions a 2022 PSI where Brian mentioned, quote, was going to make real changes this time, end quote. And the inference there from the agent is that's what he said, but that isn't what happened. So if we just concentrated on those, it'd be easy to follow this or exceed this plea agreement. But I want to emphasize also some good things about Brian. Most importantly, since his incarceration on August 18th, 2024, he has enrolled in every program offered by this jail. Bible programs, parenting classes, cognitive intervention. He's got certificates. He didn't bring them now, but he's got them. He's finished every program. He's been enrolled in Bible classes every week since then. The court knows. He enrolled in the jail's HSAD program, and within the last 2 weeks, graduated. I'm not sure if the court knows the process there. And Brian told me he failed the first number of times he took tests. He would fail the tests, but he never gave up the effort. He never quit the process. He kept working and working and trying and finally passed all the tests. That to me means a lot given this young man's background. Success has not been rewarded because there wasn't much real success in his life. He grew up, as Mr. Marco said, in that community in Minnesota, Pine County, Minnesota, where people, according to the agent, go to die or disappear. Bodies disappear. They disappear either they die and they disappear, but most generally, they disappear into the culture of drugs and bad environment, and ultimately, a lot of them go to prison and stay there. They're on a life imprisonment on the installment method, and that's not a good thing. Brian had his friends and other people that knew him write all those character letters. Liz Henry, Mr. and Mrs. Coland, his aunt Candace Benjamin, Rachel Holmes. All those folks observed Brian and expressed that he was a helper. He would accommodate people. He helped elders and senior citizens in the community. He was able to fix automobiles and fix stuff because he has that aptitude. James Hansen from the Pine County Jail led the Bible classes and said that Brian was understanding of the lessons and trying to make a change in his life. Beverly Nolan and Maria Nolan.
I've read all of these. I've read even the ones you filed really, really late, 5 minutes, actually 10 minutes before the hearing. I've read them all.
I didn't get them until yesterday, so.
Well, one was written today, so you couldn't have gotten until today. That was the Ajwa. Yes.
Right, okay. I didn't get it until today.
No.
Okay. But they provide a different insight into the young man's character and what his future is. His background is his dad wasn't there. There wasn't a lot of structure in his house. There wasn't discipline as all the rest of us probably had when we were growing up in a household of parents that, well, in my day, my mother had a wooden spoon and then she had a yardstick that my brother and I had a good awareness of until we got to be 12. His dad wasn't there. His mom, there is some differences between his mom's and Maria, but his mom grew up in a community where she was a single parent. She had to make a living for the family, and Brian and his siblings didn't have a lot of supervision at home. He had 2 instances of trauma. The teenage instance where the girlfriend died in a fiery car accident, and then his brother passed away just a couple of years ago. He recently obtained the HSED. Financially, he gets $933 a month in per cap. He received $1,600 in stimulus. Since his incarceration, he's been putting about $100 a month towards fines and costs. Those were $2,600. The balance is $800. Plus, he's making sure that $300 a month of child support is paid. The reference letter that I filed today, he's amenable to treatment. He's eligible for treatment. Big difference between what the agent said about the 2022 PSI. He's trying to paint a picture. And Ms. Lineweber is a good agent. We've both known her a long time. She tells it like it is. But in this instance, she's not aware of what Brian's done in jail. And it's more than just talking. He's had some significant action in the last year, 14 months, where he's gone through the classes, he's got the HSED, he's making an effort. Before, he was never doing that, and he's doing that now. I think it's significant that the prior agent from Minnesota made that comment in the PSI about Brian's actually doing some work. That agent's recommendation identifies what I'm arguing now. He's made a change. And then the judge that sentenced him in the state of Minnesota 1 year in jail, 1 day in jail, and 1 day on extended supervision or supervision after the sentence because he didn't want to get in the way of Brian receiving treatment here. I think that also goes a long way toward our colleagues, the Minnesota legal system and the Department of Corrections in Minnesota, identifying that this young man has made a change in his life. For those reasons, I think the court should follow the plea agreement, impose 6 years, 3 years confinement, 3 years of extended supervision, and also note that he is eligible for both challenge and substance abuse program. We would request that that you make him eligible for that 6 months from today. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Roseland, I'm now going to turn to you to see if there's any statement, anything you want to tell me at all about this case, about you, about your transformation, anything that you may have heard that was not said as accurately as you believe should be said or portrayed in the depth that you would like it to be said. You don't have to make a statement, but it's your only time to tell me anything.
Yes, I would like to start off by
Just go slow because I know sometimes you get a little anxious and
Yeah.
you go a little fast.
I'd like to start off with by saying I apologize for the people affected by the poor choices I've made. I don't know what I was thinking coming over here, thinking I could bring drugs over here or help someone out get drugs. You know, I shouldn't have did that. And I apologize to anyone that affected. I agree with what the DA says, what my attorney says. You know, I do have a history. I know I do. I can't change what I did. I can't go back and change all the poor choices or anything I've made. What I can do is try to better myself, find other ways to, you know, change my life around, which I have been. I'm trying to, Your Honor. Going to these programs. I've been in here 14 and a half months, and I'm actually happy. You know, for once I'm at peace. I was living in a dark world out there, using drugs and depressed. You know, I'm happy for once. You know, I'm sitting in jail and I'm saying that. You know, and I never had to do none of these classes. I never had to try to get my HSCD. I never had to do none of that. I've been to multiple placements. I've been to prison before. I tried to go to school to get my HSCD, and I never even got close. And I spent a year trying to get it. And I never attended no other programs in any other facility. I never opened up a Bible in my life. I never tried to go to any other classes while I've been to any other placement. I come here, and I know what I did wrong. I hit rock bottom. I'm taking these classes a couple times a week for multiple weeks. Every single chance I got to go to these programs, I tried to attend them. For 14 and a half, well, whenever they opened them up, I built a bond with these pastors. You know, they see some changes in me. I like what they speak. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I grew up, you know, living a wild life. I have a mother. She supported me. She gave me everything I wanted. She was a very good mother. I never took the help from her. I was too wild. I didn't care to. She tried to, but I never took the help. I was in a relationship with a woman for 8 years, and we both used drugs. Every time I was in a placement or any other prison, all I could think about was getting out, getting high, and getting back with the woman that I was using with, and then that never failed. I went back and did the same thing every single time. I never had the positive support. The community I am, yeah, it's a bad community. A lot of drugs out there, and I agree with that. I'm not going back to that community. I'm not going back to the woman that I was using with. I got a positive woman for me that's supportive, that never touched a drug in her life. And she's trying to help me, trying to make different changes for me, trying to help me. I'm doing what I can, Your Honor. I really am. I'm not sitting here just telling you something just to get out. I'm not trying to do that. I really am trying to change.
Mr. Roseland, do you think I do not know you since the first time I met you was, I believe, January of 2018? Do you think I do not know you by now? You think I do?
I think you do. I got this, Your Honor. I really do. I know I can do this. I will do this.
I want to make sure that you said everything that you want to say.
And I felt like I had a bunch more to say, but I'm kind of on the spot right now.
This is going to sound weird. It's going to sound different. But when I say this, I mean it. I've had the pleasure of knowing you since January of 2018. Has it always been easy, Mr. Roseland?
Absolutely not.
How many times have you failed to come to my court?
Every time.
How many times have I had to have you drug in here, arrested, and paid bail after bail after bail that got forfeited and forfeited and forfeited?
Every time.
Then, not every time, because then after how many years, what happened? Click.
Yep.
You knew with Judge Mogen, you come to court, right?
Yes.
And you did.
Yes.
COVID was a little bit slippy for everybody. It did appear on Zoom having a yard little kid poop party in a tank top. I think you remember that, right?
Yes.
I remember those things. It's a blessing and a curse to have the memory that I do, but I think in doing my job and in sitting here every day since the first day I sat here, I think it is a benefit. It's a benefit not only to me, it's a benefit to the prosecutors, it's a benefit to the defense, and it's a benefit to the defendants who sit in front of me. I know you. I don't know you personally. I've never hung out with you. No intentions of doing any of that, but I know you and I know your brothers. And when Levi was tragically killed, that was awful and devastating. And I believe it was either you or Dallas that told me the true facts behind his death. Devastating. And I can see how traumatic that was on you and your brothers. I have seen you in my courtroom, Mr. Roseland, cocky and full of yourself. I have also seen that turn around where, at least with me in my courtroom, you became respectful. You came on time. You actually came to court and you did the things I told you to do. It is disappointing to see you in this chair for these charges because I have known that you struggle from methamphetamine use. You were in front of me from that 2022 or whatever PSI that was with me, right?
Yes.
And so I read that PSI back then. I knew of your history back then. I got a little bit more in depth because some things have changed. So I understand that you have had a substance abuse disorder for most of your life. I have seen these positive changes in you since you've been in custody. I mean, I don't even know if once you were in custody, I don't even know if there was a time that the old Mr. Roseland came out and you were spiteful or snotty. I don't even believe that ever happened when you were arrested on these charges. I believe that you understood the seriousness of these charges and where you put yourself. And over the course of these last 444 days, I believe is what I wrote down, that you've been in custody, there has been even more changes that have occurred with Mr. Roseland. I am so proud of you for getting your GED or HSED, whatever that is. Because throughout the years, I've been saying, Mr. Roseland, are you going to get your driver's license? How can we get your driver's license? Mr. Roseland, are you going to get your GED? What are you doing to get your GED? And I believe at that time, and even in the course of doing it initially here in custody, during that time, I don't believe you had a lot of self-esteem. I don't believe you thought you could do that. And look at what you did, Mr. Roseland. And you helped others get theirs too. And you were a support system. And you weren't doing that. You weren't getting your GED because you thought, if I get my GED, the judge will be easy on me. If I get my GED, I'll get this or I'll get that. You worked hard to get that for you. And look at what you can tell your children. And included biological step, all of those things. And your nieces and your nephews and your friends' kids and all of those, look at what they can do. They can look up to you, not as a man to fear or to see who is stronger or more aggressive or who does these criminal things, but as a person who committed yourself to working hard and never giving up until you got the prize of that GED. You are a high school graduate.
Biggest achievement of my life.
And it's awesome. And I got a letter from one of the other graduates who wanted to say, thank you. This is a great program. I'm glad that we have it now in Burnett County, thanks to Miss Sudi. And in that letter, he also said, and we got one cupcake. And what did Mr. Roseland do with his cupcake?
Brought it back down for someone's birthday.
It was somebody's birthday who was also in custody who didn't get a cupcake. You gave him your cupcake. Another good deed. Throughout the years of you coming in front of the court for some things more serious, some things not as serious, this isn't new to me about you, all of these letters and the character things. And it's like you bamboozled the district attorney because he's saying all of these positive arguments towards you. This is a serious crime. But he's admitting with all of the things that he has read and all of the information that he has gathered and what he has about you that, you know, look at where you grew up. Look at what was normal in your life or normalized in your life. It's not where I grew up. It's not where Mr. Marco grew up. It's not where Mr. Harrington grew up. But look at, so we take the person who is sitting in that chair and we take each person separately with each of the crimes that we sentence. There's not one big, you know, set amount of years or time that somebody sits if they have this crime or that crime or this crime. We have to take it, the individual person, look at the facts, and that is looking at their entire history, their family, their mental health. We have to look at their education. We have to look at their givingness. We have to look at all of these things when a judge sentences. It's a totality of all of the circumstances because not everybody fits in that one little puzzle piece. And from the very beginning-ish, when you first started appearing in front of the court, those things were being said and those things were brought to the court. And I could tell, I have no doubt in my mind, you would do anything for anyone in this room if they needed help and assistance. I'm hoping that it's changed because I've also known you to be that if anyone does anything negative to you or to someone else that you love or care about, that you would snap in a second. And you're nodding your head up and down. And so what does that mean?
It means, I do get upset sometimes. You are right about helping anyone out, my family. I agree with that part.
I think I I'm hearing and I'm seeing that from these 444 days, again, I think that's what I wrote down, 444 days, that you have made even more significant changes to yourself. And you have realized that I have to continue to make these changes to be a better Mr. Roseland, to be a better Brian, the Brian that you are supposed to be, that you are meant to be. You have to change your habits. You have to change your associates in order to change yourself,
Yes.
to improve your life. You have to be around people who would be a positive influence to you, who will not be put you in a mindset to continue to go down the road of these criminal activities.
Yes.
I don't know Lake Lena. I only know what I hear, and sometimes it's really not good. But I do know that it is a place where people live, and there is culture, and there are activities, and there are cultural events, and there are things that are positive and great about Lake Lena. There are some negative too, but there's negative in every place that you look. There's probably a negative place in Burnett County, or even Siren or Webster or something, but there's positive too. I have gotten to know you quite a bit as you have come and gone throughout my court in multiple cases. And I'm seeing a much better Brian Roseland. I am seeing somebody, not that you didn't care before, not that you didn't want to excel before, but I'm seeing a person who really wants to change and make a positive difference in your own life as well as everybody else's life. I see that you want that now.
I really do.
You look the best that I've ever seen you. And granted, you've been in custody for 444 days, but you look healthy. You look happy. You look like you have a weight off of your shoulders. And I want to see that this happens with you outside of a confined setting. You need treatment, and you need treatment to help give you that foundation. And I think you're at a point in your life where you want it. You actually want it, and you want to make it happen. And I've said this before to other people, but I'm going to say it to you. Only you can control your life and what you do with it. You've been letting methamphetamine control your life. You've been letting other influences control your life. Truly, you have not controlled your life. You may have thought you have, but you have not.
Yeah.
This is the time in your life you can take control. You can take control of your substance use disorder. You can take control of your life and where you want it to go. You can take control and be the head of the household, the head of the community, the head of your tribal council, or any of those things that you want to get involved with. Get back to your tribal heritage. Show your children. I really am proud of you, Mr. Roseland, and where you are growing to and what you are becoming. And I only want to see better. This is a serious crime, and everyone here admits that it is a prison case. And quite honestly, in cases like this with dealing methamphetamine, it could have been a far harsher recommendation to the court, because you're dealing with a drug that destroys not only one person, but destroys families, it destroys communities, it destroys states, it destroys everyone, children. And And that's the worst. And here, I understand the argument, I understand the excuse about wanting to help out a family member, but you engaged in a confidential sale of an illegal substance that has been devastating our county and devastating Lake Lena.
Yep.
And I don't want to think of you being a part of that anymore.
Don't want to be a part of it no more.
So this is serious, and I do know all of the things that, again, I'm not going to recite everything that I've read in here or everything that I know, but both attorneys have made very strong arguments, both pro, looking at you favorably, and then, I guess, negative in knowing that this is a serious crime and it is a prison sentence. Had I not seen changes and had I not been able to see your heart and where you are and that you want to make those changes, this could be far more serious.
Yes.
You're a very likable person, Mr. Roseland, regardless of the things that you do, except if they rise to hurting somebody. But because you are so willing to do whatever you can to help and assist other people, even if they're not a part of your community. With regards to this matter, I don't think that this is something that I would go above the recommendation. And I've said this again in one of my sentences, so it sounds like I really don't, but this is a case-by-case situation. And generally, I want to say generally, because it's not a straightforward, this is what I do. Generally, in intent to deal methamphetamine, amphetamine, in dealing cases of serious substances, I do not grant early release programming. But in this case, I am going to grant the early release programming because I think that you need it, you'll benefit from it. And I think based upon the circumstances and everything that I've heard, that this case, it would be appropriate and the community won't be harmed if you take advantage of the early release programming. Because I'm going to want to think and pray that you're going to continue down your path of sobriety and your path down changing your life. I'm going to sentence you to 3 years of initial confinement and 3 years of extended supervision following the recommendations. I am going to make you eligible for the challenge abuse or the challenge incarceration program. Your attorney indicated that to make you eligible within 6 months of first going to prison and sitting the sentence, I will make you eligible for the challenge incarceration program after you've sat 6 months in prison, and you can do that. With regards to the substance abuse program, I'm going to say that you must wait a year to engage in that. Not that I don't think that that would benefit you, but this is why. I so respect the challenge incarceration program, and I think you're going to benefit from it. I had the pleasure of going to watch and engage in the inmates that were doing that program and hearing what they have learned and hearing their progression and where they were and where they're going to be when they get released from prison. And I so respect that program, and I want to see you do that program first.
I will.
And I think you can handle it. It's a tough program, but I know you can handle it, Mr. Roseland. If by some chance there is a medical issue that DOC says that you are ineligible to engage in the challenge incarceration program, a medical issue, because they have some things that say that you're not permitted to be in that, then I would agree to amend my judgment of conviction to say that you can engage in the substance abuse program early, like that challenge incarceration program. Okay? Have you gotten your driver's license yet?
Nope, not yet.
I did not think so. And that's going to be part of a condition of extended $518 in fines and fees. As part of the conditions of extended supervision, absolute sobriety, no use or possession of any illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia, no cohorting or being around anyone who is on felony probation or extended supervision for drug-related offenses without approval from your agent. Regular drug testing. Must get your driver's license within 1 year of being released. I know you can do it.
I will do it.
We were almost there. You just had fines and fees to pay, and then you had to pass your test.
Yep.
You were almost there. Gainful employment or some type of secondary education. It doesn't have to be 4-year college. It doesn't have to be a 2-year tech school or college. It can be any kind of trade. You'd make an excellent plumber. You'd make an excellent electrician or a mechanic. You have that mind, Mr. Roseland. Not many people have the mind where you can just figure things out. And I think you do. From all that I've read, I think you do. So don't give up on yourself and do that. You can make a lot of money doing one of those things. And you can make your own hours, and you can be home for your family, and you can pretty much make your own life. No use or possession of any illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia. No firearms. Never, ever, never, never, ever. And I'm just saying that because you know you're a felon, and I do not want to see you have any charges with that.
You won't.
Follow all rules of supervision, programming as required by your agent. I am going to say that I want you to engage in a thinking for a change or breaking barriers type of program, because I think that's going to continue to assist you in getting your mind reset. Because living in the environment and normalizing some things that you have done in your life, and I understand, it's just trying to change your whole way of thinking. And so that will help. I also want you to do an anger management program so that you can learn to take a breath and respond, not react. I think you're doing better at that, but I think if somebody can assist you and help you through that, you will respond and not react. Because when you react is when you get into trouble. You react when you flee, when you're in a vehicle. You react when you punch somebody and knock them out. You react when you do those types of things. You need to respond and think so you don't have to deal with criminal charges anymore. Jail credit 444 days.
Judge,
Yes.
I just did some quick calculations, and I think I made a mistake. It's actually 443.
443. Okay, 443. Either way, Department of Corrections will let me know. I'll get that wonderful fancy little letter that says, hey, you're wrong. You need one more day, you need one less day, whatever it is. But
I'm
442.
responsible to properly represent the calculations to the.
I understand, so I appreciate that. All right, so I'm ordering your DNA. The jail will make sure that they have that. This is not a crime that you can have it expunged from the system. Fines and fees, continue to pay them as you're paying them, because you know me, right? I do warrants, right?
Absolutely.
And you've had to sit some time, right?
I made sure I paid every month from the time I've been in here.
Yep, and I appreciate that. I think that covers everything. Mr. Marco, what am I
Do give me
missing?
our key again?
I don't think that you're missing anything, assuming that Attorney Harrington has done the appeals paperwork.
All right.
A year?
20 days to appeal. Should you fail to appeal within 20 days, you do lose that right. Mr. Harrington, what am I missing?
It does have the notice of right to seek post-conviction relief. Decided, I filed it. He's undecided. He'll call me if he wants to change that.
You'll figure it out, or you won't, and you'll do the challenge incarceration program. If you graduate from that program, let me know. I will come to your graduation.
Yeah,
I will.
okay.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
Questions?
Love you guys.
Questions?
Thanks for your work.
Take care.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Love you, Mama.